it almost took us out. It was bad. Put my house back up, sold tons of stuff just to ensure that I didn't have to lay anybody off. I was scared every day that I had done failed. My dad left me this business, and then I folded it up. I was heavy in prayer in those moments. It's kind of like a scary prayer to pray. God, remove any business that's not for our company. Remove people that's not for our company. So I was forced to fight until I didn't have a place to go back and fight for.
That level of determination that says, no matter what, this is going to work. And even if it didn't, I'm just going to build it again.
So I knew I could do something else, but I knew that this is what I had to do. You've risked everything to get here. So I'm going to go back to that building, no matter what the bank account looks like, or if I'm going there by myself until the bank puts a lock pad on it and I can't go in there anymore.
And what are some of those changes that you've made to get Southern Response to where it is today?
Whenever we took over, we were averaging about 9 million. Last year, we finished at 30 million. My big vision is I want to be a $100 million company in the next 5 years.
Something you said to me in our last conversation really stuck with me. And it's been something that I've thought about quite a bit as we've been getting ready for this conversation. And I'm going to try to get it right. You said, if you're going to build something meaningful or impactful, you're signing up for the hard times. Mm-hmm. It's inevitable. And I don't know if you remember saying that, but walk me to that. Like, what does that just mean for you?
Like generally, like nothing in life comes easy.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do something, if God's, specific, like I know for sure, that I'm always trying to make sense of, why I was kind of like thrown in this situation. People look and they'll say, like, oh, he was given this, whatever. I feel more like I was given this burden or I was thrown into this situation. And, so I'm always trying to make sense of that piece of it. Like why my dad had to die. Why at 23, I was forced to run this company and have all these people, the weight of all these people's lives, like in my hand. So I'm always trying to make sense of that. And then I go back to the true calling that I feel like God has on my life. And what I love the most is people, helping people, being there for them, helping them provide for their family the same way that, this company helps me provide for mine. So I think that in order to grow and continue to build and be better, that you're going to go through hard times. So if it's easy, when things in our company get easy or my life feels easy, I'm always like sitting there. I'm not like sitting back. A lot of people will sit back and like kind of, it's good. I'm always sitting there like, okay, something's coming. Mm-hmm. It's time to grow. But that's the main piece of it is just to build something meaningful, and to do that, you're going to have to go through hard times, because Chase at 23 couldn't do what Chase now at 28 is doing. I couldn't have the company that I have now, or the same person I was when all that happened. Mm-hmm. So I was forced to grow up. I was forced to do all these things and become this different person, this different version of myself.
Yeah.
That never would have happened if I wouldn't have went through the hard things.
Yeah. And when you look at Chase as the public figure, 28, CEO and running a $200 million company with over 200 employees, that's the public face that people see. But take me back to the 23-year-old Chase, working out in the field, didn't know what was coming. Like, what was life at 23, 18 to 23, just working the job? Like, what was life then?
Average, partying, drinking, like doing all the things that a new legal person can do, like you're just not far after 21. You're out there chasing different things, which I was married at the time. But so my life looked a little bit differently. I didn't have any children. It was just, I had no responsibility. I had a home, a mortgage, a vehicle note, like the small things, the average stuff. I didn't have like true weight on my shoulders of having to take care of anybody else other than my wife and me. That's easy. And then, being put in that situation and those shoes, it's like now I think we had roughly like 10 employees at the time. So now I'm, I've got 10 people's lives in my hands. Yeah. One wrong mistake, one wrong decision that I don't know. I have zero clue any decision that I made at that time. I didn't know if I was doing the right thing, the wrong thing, whatever. My dad didn't. We never really got to that point because he always forced us to work first, and then you'll learn these other pieces of it. Mm-hmm. It wasn't, I didn't graduate high school, come into the office and, sit back and do stuff. There were moments, in that when I wasn't like out on a job or anything, where I was in the office and I was a little lazy. I didn't, I thought I had more time to learn all those things. So I kind of stuck it back a little cool and, leave work a little early. Your average, person. But he made us go out in the field, work, start at the front desk, working every position through the company. And we just never got to the point where he showed us like the true ownership pieces of it, which like looking back to like I don't think he really knew. Like my dad was a blue collar guy, like just was fortunately able to start this business, and there was a need for it. Like it started during the BP oil spill. It was crazy. Everybody needed as many people as they could get. So they seen an opportunity, opened it up, and then it kind of stuck from there. I don't think he really understood what he was doing. Mm-hmm. And then like you have the financial pieces of it too. So at 23, I was lucky about $800 in the bank account. And then now I'm having to manage and see, hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank account, like where all this gets divvied out, where all this goes, like what do you have to do with all this money? I had zero inclination about what to do with any of that.
Yeah.
And so like having to figure out how to understand that and manage that money so that, people continue to get paid. They have a place to come to every week. That was probably the hardest pieces of it. And mm-hmm. then just learn like the true business piece of it. So I saw, after people who were doing stuff, I didn't really have anybody I could lean on. I was just going like day by day. My first thing was, the one thing he did teach me is like, you can make money with these. So I think it was like 2 days after we put him in the ground, a big job come up. Me and my brother went to New Orleans, stayed out there I think I was there for like 2 or 3 months working, just running stuff like on job sites, what I knew to do before. And then I was like, I'll figure out the rest later.
Wow.
But we were fortunate with the team that we had there. A bunch of people stepped up and, kind of took ownership of some things. So we made it work out in those moments, but a lot of failure.
Yeah. You've said a few things already that really stand out as, figuring it out day by day, mm-hmm. learning through failure, and because when your dad, Lee, right, started mm-hmm. Southern Response Services, you got a blue collar guy, knows how to work hard and builds a business. And then when we talked about the business a little bit, you mentioned something that really stood out, and that was that Southern Response was Lee. It was an extension mm-hmm. of Lee. The lights really didn't turn on without him.
Yeah.
And he was still very much running every day to day. And so when you're faced with that, your dad's passing, and then suddenly this company is still existing, mm-hmm. but your dad's no longer here to run it. What was that season like, and how did you navigate those times of saying, I know I've got to keep the doors open mm-hmm. for all the people that are counting on me, but you don't know what to do yet. How did you navigate that? Walk through the feeling that you had in that moment.
Yeah, I mean, so that was the hardest piece about the business. It was a 1,000%. It was him. It was Lee Duke. Like every client we had, he dealt with directly. Employees, like he was still calling and placing people on jobs. Like everybody knew him. So like his cell phone was the most vital thing that we had in that moment. Cause like our office phone really didn't even ring. It was, they would call Lee's phone. So we had to keep like those things going and stuff. And I'd tell them all the time, I'd be like, you pretty much pay people. You don't let people do what you pay them to do. I was like, you pretty much just have a lot of people that sit around here for you to hang out with because you still do everything yourself. I was like, you can't grow. Like, I didn't tell them these things in the moment because I didn't know. Looking back on it now, it's like, you can't grow when you bottleneck everything. So you're holding on to it. I don't know if that's like a characteristic or what it is, because I felt myself doing the same things. I took it and built it and got it to where it was. And then I was like, looking back, it's like my phone's still ringing, like clients are dealing with me. And so I had to start drawing that back. And when you start doing those pieces, that's a hard piece about growth too. Because at some point, as you're growing a company, the company is essentially that person. You bring people on to help you do like back end stuff, but you're the face of it. You're dealing with all the, customers and stuff. But, so I had to start drawing back on some of that as we started growing, because I was just stretching myself out thin. Working late, phone's always ringing, couldn't take a vacation, couldn't spend time with my kid. Like all those things. So I started pulling back a little bit. And gradually, when you start doing that, like you do have some clients that fall off and stuff because they enjoy, they feel important when they're talking to, the CEO or the owner of a company and business. And then you start, like, you pass them off to somebody else, allow that person to do their job. You'll gradually like lose some of that. So that was a big piece that I had a trouble like letting go of. But I knew that, my dad died when he was 50. So he had just turned 50 while he was actually in the hospital. You don't know how long you got. Like, there's crazy people on the road every single day. You don't know if you're going to make it or not. So I knew that if something happened to me, my dad left a legacy here for me. I want the company to still be here, whether I'm here or not. I'm a big piece of the company. But I had to realize that I do have to allow people to do other things. And once I realized that, and I'm not far into that, I'm like a year and a half, brought a new business partner on and kind of stepped back. And now like I'm able to do things like this, or, take an actual vacation, go somewhere, go do, sales out in the field, and the company still runs and still, progresses without me physically being in there. I love my team. I love being around them. I love helping them. But I had to realize that I had to stop bottlenecking it in order for it to grow.
Yeah. Sounds like there's been a lot of growth in the last 5 years that have gotten you from, the 23-year-old that woke up one day with the weight of the company on the shoulders to building it into something that's actually operating without you there, picking up that phone every day. So what were those early days like? So you go in now, Southern Response Services needs to keep running. Mm-hmm. You've got employees counting on you. You've got clients counting on you. How did you navigate those times? And how did your faith tie into all that at the time too?
Really just taking it day by day. I think if you get caught up in looking at the future and planning too far ahead, I think you need to have like a game plan, and have something figured out of what your goals, what you want to achieve. Is it just, keeping the lights on this week, or is it, trying to double down and grow? Whatever that looks like, it's different for everybody. But I think just the biggest piece of advice I got was not stressing about, 2 months down the road, not stressing about, a year down the road. Financially, I think you have to look at those things. In that moment, I wasn't worried about financially. I was like, I know if I go out and get this job, that the money's going to come in. So we'll figure that piece out of it later. But just day by day, just trying to figure out, how do I continue to get business? 2, how do I continue to lead this team? I don't know if our company, my dad was a great person, would do anything for anybody. I don't know if he ever understood the true leadership portion. I don't know if I knew people would follow him because they believed in him. I don't know if they really looked up to him as a leader, and I had to learn about leadership. I wasn't a leader. There was nothing about me that I thought people would look at and want to follow. I had people that were there because I paid them to be there, essentially. And once I navigated through that I didn't want people to be there just because they're expecting a paycheck on Friday. I want to be there because they believe in the vision and the goals that I'm setting out, and they believe that they can support their family. They believe that they can give their family a better life by following me. The paycheck is just something that is going to come and grow. And, hopefully as the business grows, like I want all of my people to grow with that.
Yeah.
I want longevity in people. I want to build a true team that's unlike any other. Right now, for the first time in those 5 years, I'm confident in the team that I have, the people. I know that the people in my business are the right people to be there. So there's another level that's fixing to come. Now I have the team. I'm going to go through something hard, and then we're going to, project up. It's like a catapult thing. Like you have to be pulled back in order to be released to go forward. But obviously, I went through some pretty dark times after my dad passed away, just having all that weight on your shoulders and then going through that at a young age. I wasn't a child or anything. I was an adult providing for myself and stuff, but my dad was mine and my brother's, best friend. So navigating all those pieces, I think just naturally when something bad happens in your life, it's either you can grow closer to God or grow further away from God. I had a relationship with God. I didn't have the relationship that I think he wanted me to have. I was still doing things and, not you're a good Christian. I don't think people looked at me and was like, man, this guy's, a good dude. Man, this guy's got it figured out. He's close to God. I don't think people seen that in me. I know they didn't after he passed away. But I knew that what I needed to do, and then back to the trying to make sense of everything. I knew that what I needed to do, I couldn't do alone. And, I knew I had a calling on my life. Like I had to make it make sense. So eventually, I come back, got closer to God. I knew that there was a reason for all of this. And then just, submitting to him and, okay, these things happen. Why do I love this business? Why am I here in this situation? And it just, kind of boiled down to, this type of business is something that can reach thousands of people. It helps provide. I know every business, there's a service that people need and all that. What people get from us is an opportunity to provide for their families. And at the core of that, it's just like, I know that that's the weight of that is big. But I know that that's the piece of it that I love the most, to know that I get to provide this place, this business that's providing for thousands of people now at this point. They get a check, every Friday. They're getting to buy their kids Christmas. They're, getting new cars, homes, whatever it is. We're helping provide that. So the meaningfulness of that is kind of, that's why I do what I do. That's why I love what we do.
Yeah. The fact that you're so focused on helping others and being there for others and building the company, building the team, not for you, but for the people you're serving is, it's huge because it's all about the people. Mm-hmm. Where do you feel like that turning point was for you in those early days when you were, I'm sure you had a few choices. Mm-hmm. Do I keep running it the way my dad did, where I have my phone tied to me all the time? The business, only operates when you're operating, versus turning it into something that's operating outside of you. When did that shift start to happen, and did you notice it happening?
Yeah, the biggest piece is what kind of grew my leadership portion is like I said, my dad was a great guy. He was that hardcore blue collar guy. I knew that I wanted to be different than him, and how he led people, how he treated people. Yeah, he was a hothead. Like, honestly, I think I get some of that from. But I
wouldn't have taken hothead from you. My voice is calm, cool, collected.
My voice is a little low. I tell people I talk quietly because I got yelled at so much as a kid. But he was hard. He was a hard dad. He was a hard, guy to work for. But people loved him, and he would honestly like do anything for anybody. I knew I wanted to be different. So, I mean, that brought in the pieces of it. I watched him, as a child, like growing up. He worked at a steel mill for a while. He left. He did like vinyl siding and windows and stuff on houses. He did that for a couple of years. He hot shot it. He'd done like multiple things. He went back to the mill. And then when he got an opportunity to do this, that was the core of the same reason that I love doing it as the core of why he started it. He loved helping people and being there and being able to provide a way for people a little differently. But I knew I didn't want that for my life. I knew I enjoy work. Like, don't get me wrong. If I'm not there, like, I'm freaking out. I always tell my team, I'm like, we're going to build a new office eventually. So I'm just going to put a bunch of bedrooms in there. We're going to build a little compound so we can just all stay close together and work all the time.
How'd they feel about that?
I don't know. I didn't give them an opportunity to think about it. I just told them that's what we're doing. But I missed a lot. My dad worked so hard when I was young. And just looking at his life, from what I remember him as a father to when he passed away, it was just like the dude always worked all the time. Like, he worked so hard to make a better life for us. Like, we didn't have anything growing up. I had holes in my floor in the house. Like, we used to call them little speed bumps. We had a little house up on stilts, and it had hardwood floors, and the house obviously shifted, and the floors would kind of like buckle like that. And me and my brother shared a room. My sister slept in the living room, and we shared a room up until I moved out and bought my own house. Or he moved out first, bought his own house. Then I had my own room for about a year until I moved out. And, but just watching him work hard to kind of like get us out of those situations and have a better life for us, be able to buy things. Like, nobody wants to tell their child no or something. Like, we would go to restaurants, and my kid doesn't know any different because, like, he wants a sweet tea, he gets a sweet tea. We were doing good if we got like a soft drink or sweet tea, something other than water that you had to pay for. We were lucky to even be there to eat. But watching him do all of that, and that being like what I remember about him, I don't want my kids to see that. And like, I want to be able to spend time, be intentional with them, and, provide a good life for them. I don't want to be tied to my phone all the time, or, on vacation with a laptop out working. There's moments and times where, those things are necessary. I do know, like, I love work enough to sacrifice some of the moments. And as a business owner, you have to be okay with sacrificing some family time and, stuff like that. It's not something that you get to get off at 5 and shut it off if somebody calls. There's a problem. Like, you're the one that has to deal with it at the end of the day. I think I don't mind that piece of it. Mm-hmm. I like to feel, needed, wanted, with work. But I mean, that's the gist of it. I mean, so when he passed away, like, one of the big things he always wanted, that he wanted to have a nice house for my mom, a piece of property, nice vehicle. So, like, looking back on, it's kind of crazy, like, how God works. All I remember is him working. He passed away in 2021. In 2019, he moved. So I was out of the house. My brother was out of the house. All he had was my sister, him, and my mom in the house. So he found a piece of property with a home on it in Satsuma. We grew up in Crayola, and they were able to buy it. He had a nice vehicle. My mom was driving a nice vehicle. And then he bought this nice house with some property and stuff. Like, he had got everything. We'd done a bunch of work around the property. He had finally, like, achieved, like, what he wanted to be able to provide for, our family, even though like we were gone. So I told him, I was like, you waited until, we were out and I was in my own house to buy this. But seeing him achieve that, that was special to see. And I don't think like in those moments I realized it, because it's okay. Like he's here, he's going to continue to build and build and build and work up. And there'll be more things in the future. And then a year and a half after, he bought all that, he, passed away. And it's like, I don't want that for my life.
Yeah. I think we all want better for our kids than we had growing up. And I know that, I look at the way that my parents were brought up, and I think that they did better for us. And I've always strived to give my kids better.
Yeah.
I never wanted my kids to wonder if we could afford to go out to eat or anything like that. And so the decisions that we make along the way, I think, are very much formed by that. Mm-hmm. So in those times, I mean, at 23, most people are not thinking about running a company.
Yeah.
They're either in college, they're working a job, they're maybe starting to build a family, getting married. You have all these things, and then you're also having to bear the weight of the company. So, in those early days, you knew how to work with your hands. Mm-hmm. Who did you have alongside you to kind of help guide you through that process of what it meant to run a business, if anybody?
I mean, in the early stages of it, I kind of I went straight to work. Like I said, after I think it was literally like 2 days after we buried my dad and had all the stuff. It was like kind of a moment we were sitting there, and because the business was Lee Duke, back to his phone being an important piece of it. Like we were sitting there and was like, man, this is big. Back then it was like we were doing a bunch of storm work, and there was a big storm that hit New Orleans down there. I was like, man, we should be busy. Nobody's calling. So I was like, I got to get in the truck. I got to go down there. So we drove down there, started getting in front of all these people, our clients that we had. And they were like, we didn't know, we didn't want to call out of respect, didn't know what you were going to do with the business, or you're going to continue it. So just happened to go down there, and, I had to make that happen. But I had a close friend, Dustin Jackson. So he owns several businesses. He's, older than me. And him and my dad kind of talked a lot. He owns a detail company. He's always cleaned like all our stuff. So I just kind of, he was there for me, like going back and forth, just like, hey, anything you need, like I can help you out. So I'm a little reserved anyways on that, because I don't really lean on people a whole lot. I try to figure it out myself. So I had to learn that piece of it, that it's okay to, I was, young, cocky, just, I need to figure it out on my own kind of thing. But I started leaning on him and just, telling him like all the things that were going wrong. Like I didn't think I was doing anything right. Just like, how long do I got to continue to do this until like it slacks up a little bit? I was like, it's a lot of pressure. I don't know how long I can keep going like this. I was like, when does it stop? And then he was like, never. I was like, oh, that's bad. I was like, I don't know if I can keep doing this. And he just kind of like walked with me through that. He was a big help on like the financial pieces of it and just the back end stuff, the actual business. Like I said, I knew what it took to make money and to be profitable. But after that, as far as like all the back end stuff, I had zero clue. So I just like run stuff by him. My mom was still a piece of the business. So she actually, after my dad passed away, she owned the company for a couple of years. We bought her out January of 25. Me and my brother did. So she owned the company just because we were so young, and there's a lot of like weight on that. So she didn't want that for us. She was there like doing some of the back end stuff, dealing with like insurance and lawyers and everything. But as far as everything else, I had to lean on him to help me with that.
Yeah. So when you take over the company, 23-year-old, 24, 25, you're going through those first few years. You mentioned that, people were working there because they were getting a check. Mm-hmm. You felt like that, that your leadership hadn't really set in yet. Mm-hmm. What was that like internally with some of those people that I'm sure that were double your age, probably suddenly now working for somebody younger?
Yeah, I think it was definitely tough. I've had some of these conversations with some of those people who are still, with us today. I think it was definitely tough for them. That was a big hurdle, being 23 and coming in. And I think it matters about what you do in that moment. If you let it go to your head and you're just like, oh, I'm the boss. Like I never once, like I would feel weird if they would call me like one of our guys. He's still, now it don't matter. But he never calls me by name. He's just, hey boss. I'm like, you got to stop, don't call me that. Let's work together. I think just having that mutual respect for him, helped out a lot in a big way. I'm sure there were like some feelings and stuff involved, like if I made a decision, that they didn't agree with, like I got some pushback and it was tough. But at the end of the day, I was like realizing that they're people, realizing the age difference and being honest with myself that I didn't know what I was doing, honestly. So the vulnerability that you had to open up to that and just understand like what they're probably going through. Yeah. Like, yeah, I went through all these hard things, but also too, like their life just got put in a 23-year-old's hand. And my brother was 25. Cause we ran it together. We still own the company together. I think like having to put yourself in other people's shoes. I think that's it's all determined on what you do in those moments of how your leadership develops, how you get buy-in from the team. In those moments, I honestly wasn't thinking about that. I was just kind of like down on myself. Like I don't know what I'm doing. So if they're arguing with me or they don't feel like my choice is the best, like maybe I should evaluate what I said. We'll look at it together. And just kind of working through everything with the team. And it, like I said, I mean, it was kind of tough because while people had, jobs and everything, my dad held on to a lot of stuff. So we were all kind of figuring out our roles because I was like, I'm not him. Yeah. I can't do everything. I was like, so you need to do this. You need to do this. You need to do this. And then we'll all work together to get it all done. That was a big piece. So we were all kind of learning together and being there, like, first one there, last one to leave. I think just them seeing that's where you earn the respect. Even though you're paying them and they may be there for a paycheck, that's fine. But to get true respect and to be a true leader, you have to be willing to do more. You have to be willing to at least do what you're asking someone else to do. I believe in doing more than what you're asking them to do. If I ask you to do this, I'm asking you to do it because I want you to be a part of it and I want you to help. But I'm willing to do that and some. Yeah. But I think just being on the same level with them and not getting the whole age thing like out of your head and being, transparent with them. Like, hey, I'm having to make these decisions, but I really don't know what I'm doing. Let's collaborate on it together. Let's kind of go through all the different scenarios and help me make this decision. I think you get that true buy-in from them rather than barking orders around. Nobody wants to be talked to crazy by a 23-year-old that they don't know what he's doing.
Sure. I think that candor and that humility probably went a long way in that season of you knew that you had to learn it too. Yep. And everybody else, they were having to learn it as well because now it's not just in one person's head. It's you all are having to figure out how to run this business together. Mm-hmm. Was there a time in those first few years where you can look back to and say, like, this is when it started clicking? Not that it became easy, but when it started moving?
I mean, honestly, I haven't. Probably around the end of 24, I feel like I had so I'd started, surrounding myself with different business owners and getting coached and mentored by people. And I joined a coaching group out in Arizona I'd go to and just being around different people and hear and, because you're always waiting for that moment. Like, when's it going to get easier? When do you feel like you've arrived? When do you feel like you've got it figured out? And like, I'm in a room in Arizona with, company guys that own companies doing hundreds of millions of dollars, a couple $1 billion companies in there. And it's like, they all have similar, maybe not the same exact problems. They all have similar problems to what I have. But I'd say like late of 24 is kind of when I started like feeling a little bit relief, like, okay, I can do this, but now I have to transition from a boss to a leader. I don't want them to look at me as a boss. I want them to look at me as a leader, somebody that no matter where we're going, like you're gonna follow me. If I come up, in the company tomorrow and I change it up and I say, hey, we're not doing this anymore. We're going to do this. Without a doubt, I know my people, they'll be like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
That's what you want to do. Let's do it. They're not there for a paycheck anymore. They're there because they believe in the vision that we're projecting, and we're open about all that. I think that's a big piece of it too, is like projecting your vision to the people so they can see, they want to see where you want to take it. And it's important because they have to make sure they want to go there with you. Some may not, and that's fine. I mean, people play their seasons in your life for a reason. And if they don't believe in where we're taking it, ultimately at the end of the day, it's our decision, like where we want to take the company, what we want to do. And we really changed it, and started pushing like a faith-based company. Like that piece of it was, you got to have buy-in to everybody in there. We're not perfect, and I know that kind of spotlight makes us more vulnerable, more open to people judging us and stuff. But we don't project that we're perfect people. I think that's why while we're doing good, I think broken people reach broken people, and they walk in our office like, they don't feel convicted. We don't make them feel convicted or anything like that. It's just an opportunity to come in here and do something good for somebody and let them see that the heart of what we do is good intentions. Like, we care about all our employees.
Yeah. It's when there's no vision, people perish, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you have that compelling vision, you give a group of people, you give that individual something to really lock onto. Mm-hmm. And so it sounds like you did a really great job building out, here's who we're becoming, here's where we're going. Because if people don't know what that looks like, I know from my past history with leading teams and managing organizations, if they can't buy into where you're going, it's really hard to get them motivated on a day-to-day basis. Mm-hmm. So did that come through those coachings that you had with those mentors, or where did you start to see how important vision and direction was?
I definitely think that, in the beginning, it was just like a survival mode. Mm-hmm. Like, there's no vision. It's just trying to make it another day, trying to continue to push through, let's get everybody paid on Friday. So yeah, I mean, being a part of those groups and just talking to different people, I didn't understand the importance of casting your vision to people. I thought as long as I had it figured out up here, like, you're good. They'll be there, continue to pay them on Friday. They're going to stay there, and then the company grows. They're good. But if they can't see, like, they don't see, and we're transparent with our numbers and stuff with our team. I think that's a big piece. Like, obviously there's, some things that aren't shared, but as far as like our revenue, like what we're doing, on a weekly basis, like, they can see the growth. And then they can also see that, when we fall short. And I think that builds, trust to show them like that it's not all, cause a lot of times people, they think that, as a business owner, like, we're just making all this money and, they're on the back burner and stuff. So I think when you open up that transparency and they can see, like, this is what we have to pay out, to turn the lights on this week. This is what we did. We had a good week this week. And then, you continue to go down. And when those bad weeks hit, they can feel that weight, but their accounts, their families, they never feel that weight. So they see us carrying that weight. I think that adds a lot of pieces to it. But the vision piece of it, definitely, I didn't have that figured out. I was like, make a plan, go after that plan. Until I figured that out and kind of cast that vision to people, I don't think it was just like they were coming in there kind of day by day. And then once I, cast the vision, like, hey, this is where I want to take it. I want to grow it. Like, yeah, we all make, decent money, but I want to pay y'all this. I want, like in our space, one of my big goals is, I want to pay a recruiter, $100,000 plus to recruit. That's not something that's like industry standard. Like you can't be in our industry and make that kind of money. We have people very close to making that. So those visions they can see, it coming to reality. We pay them commission and everything too. So, I mean, there's some, like if they push really hard, like they'll hit that. So like casting visions like that out and then seeing it, like they can see it.
Yep.
They can feel it. They can taste like all the things it's coming. So you're getting that true buy-in from them. I don't think I understood that. Like I can have those plans in my head and I could have kept that to myself. Mm-hmm. And then they're just sitting there like, am I going to get a raise? Like, I'm working harder. Like what's going to happen?
Yep.
It feels like the company's doing better. Like seeing all those things, they have to see that. You have to get that out of your head to get true buy-in to a team.
Yeah.
I'm big. People tell me I'm wrong. Like I want my team to be 100% bought in. Truthfully, nobody's going to be 100% except for me. I want them as close to 100% buy-in as I can get. I don't know. People tell me that that's unrealistic, but I think it's about how you treat them, what you do for them. And they see that like, yeah, at the end of the day, they get a better offer, whatever, go somewhere else. And I'm happy for them.
Sure.
I want you to, whatever you feel like is best for you and your family. But I want to be as transparent with everything so I can get as close to that 100% buy-in to the vision as what I have.
Yeah. The Southern response today versus 5 years ago looks like a different company.
Oh, completely.
So what are some of those changes that you made along the way? Because 2020, 2021, Southern Response was about a $9 million company, right? Mm-hmm. Revenue per year?
Average.
Yeah. So where did you finish last year revenue-wise, and what are some of those changes that you made to get Southern Response to where it is today?
Yeah. So, I mean, whenever we took over, we were averaging about 9 million. And then back to the vision thing, like my big vision is I want to be $100 million company, in the next 5 years. So last year we finished at 30 million, but we wanted to be a little bit higher than that. I've got a 2-year plan to be at 50 million, and at 50 million, want to do some acquisitions and stuff to get it to 100. I don't know if it's unrealistic. I think it may be a little unrealistic, but anything can happen.
If the goal's realistic, then you need to shoot higher, right?
Yeah. I know it'll be a stretch. It'll be hard, but, yeah. So, I mean, the biggest change that happened with that is just, I think, becoming the leader that I am today. My dad was hard. He was tough on me. He was tough on my brother. And I just remember like back in the days, like again, like blue collar guy would do anything for anybody. When he got pissed off, everybody felt it. It's just like, I knew I didn't ever want to talk to anybody those ways or make anybody feel those type of ways. Like there's hard conversations that we have, but it's how the difference is how I approach those conversations. And, instead of tearing them down at the end of the conversation, I don't want them to go back there and sulk. I want them to want to be better and not make that mistake, not do that, change it, be better, be different. So, I mean, I think that was the biggest piece, is just valuing people more. And then getting them, bought into the vision, taking care of them. And then, I mean, we changed up the biggest piece, like financially, of where it changed up is we changed kind of like industry specific of what we deal with, the heart of it. so they started in the BP oil spill. Him and his brother owned a separate company. They split in 2014. He opened Southern Response in 15. But what he loved to do, because he started in like emergency response, was like oil spills. We did the bird flu stuff. And then hurricanes was like a big piece of what we did, majority of what we did. So that $9 million of revenue that we were doing was, primarily, like storm related. We did a lot of it to finish out 21, 22. We did a lot of it. 23 was really dry. So I'm sitting there kind of scrounging around like we need to do more. We're really intrigued. Me and my brother were, really intrigued. We have a bunch of friends that are in the industrial space and stuff, the shutdowns, the outage work, welders, fitters. So just like looking at that, evaluating those things, that was where we made the shift to. We didn't know anything about as far as like staffing in the industrial space. So I had brought on a sales girl that was with another company, and she had tons of industrial sales experience. So I brought her on, and we started doing that and kind of getting into it, kind of changed up some of the dynamics. But I was real intentional about while she was there, making sure I learned everything I could from her, in case something happened. She's no longer with us anymore. But I learned as much as I could from her to make sure that I could continue to do that, because that was something that I really wanted to do. So our biggest sectors now are industrial, is the biggest piece of it. We still do the restoration stuff. It's just more on a selective basis, because those things are, the restoration side they're really risky. You're dealing with the companies who are dealing with insurance companies. So your money is really far drawn out. I didn't like that piece of it. I got burnt pretty bad, about $2.5 million, that we lost. That was like my biggest mess up, and that happened in 23. So a lot of lessons were learned there. So that was kind of one of the biggest pushes to get into something else a little bit more secure.
Yeah. Sometimes we learn our biggest lessons through losing something. And so let's look at that for a minute, because it sounds like that was a really big part of you transitioning your business model. So taking a $2.5 million hit is hard. I mean, that would shut down a lot of companies.
Yeah. It almost shut us down. That was bad.
Wow. So as much as you can, dive into it a little bit. What happened? What were the things that you learned and took away in that process that took you to that next level?
Yeah. So our process is, so we use a factoring company to front our payroll, because we pay the employees weekly. So we run our invoices, we collect timesheets, and then we run our invoices through a factoring company. They front us for 90 days. Once those invoices reach 90 days, they pull that money, whatever the invoice total was, they'll pull that out of our bank account. So I was dealing with a company, one of the owners was out of Florida. I met him at an event. The other one was out of Michigan, and there was a big oil spill that happened, and they needed some help on. So we went up there, partnered up with them. It was good. They were paying me like on an average 25, net 30 terms. Everything was going good. We did about $6.5 million with them that year. So everything went good to about $4.5 million, and they were paying good, everything. The owner that I had a good connection with got sick, and he, started like kind of backing out a little bit. So I started dealing with the other owner. I don't know what he had going on or something. He wasn't managing money correctly. So those invoices started hitting like 90 days, and they're starting to come out of our bank account. And these invoices are like, $200,000-$300,000 a week coming in. So it didn't take long to get to $2.5 million. So he'd pay like my partial invoice and stuff. And, I had a lot of faith in him, because they paid us so good before. And so I talked to the other guy. I'm like, hey, can you reach out to someone, can you reach out to this guy and let him know I need to collect this money? Like, it's starting to affect us. I got other jobs that I need to retain money for so I can continue to do business. And, I'd talk to them, it'd go a little bit, and then I'd get a check. And so I threatened multiple times to like pull our people. The job was still going on. And I think I just had too much trust in him in the moments, and he'd pay a little bit and then to get back. Like I said, the invoice amounts were large. So he'd pay like a couple $100,000, and then at 90 days, and these invoices go out weekly. So every week my bank account's getting hit. And it's either, I wasn't getting any deposits in. It was just money going out continuously. And that happened for months. Didn't understand the financial pieces of it. I was like, well, we're making money over here. These people are paying. These guys aren't. But those pieces of it, I think I just had too much trust in them. But when I finally ended up kind of pulling out on it, and then it was kind of like, all right, good luck, kind of just like left me high on that. And, so then we got started like legal proceedings and stuff, and I'm still not done with it. It's still going on. Still haven't collected, a fraction of that. They offer like some, like agreement to pay me like 20% of what he owed me. Like it was something crazy. And it would have drawn out for like 4 years. But I had to learn a lot of lessons in that. It almost took us out. It was bad. I like put my house back up, like went and got a line of credit on my house, sold tons of stuff, just to ensure that I didn't have to lay anybody off. And I think in those moments, that's when you learn the most. And yeah, it could have took us out. Like I was scared every day that I had done failed. My dad left me this business, and then, I folded it up.
Well, in that moment, in those times, that's the weight and the pressure that I don't think people understand is not only do you have the weight and the pressure of your employees, you've put your house up, you've taken out lines of credit, and then you also have the legacy weight that you just talked about of, here, my dad left me this business, and now what? Mm-hmm. What did you take away as the biggest lessons in that season from that experience? What were if you had to say, these are the biggest things that I walked away from that with? At first it'd just be cautious in business, who you do business with, not all money is good money. Like we were making really good money with them until we weren't. I think that was when I started, like my prayer got a little differently. I was heavy in prayer in those moments. And just, it's kind of like a scary prayer to pray, God, remove any business that's not for our company, remove people that's not for our company, bring in business that, good business to work with. I think that's a really scary prayer to pray. But I think that was probably the biggest lesson I learned, because at that point, like I said, I didn't know anything. I was just like, I know that, hey, if they tell me they need this, that we can provide it, that, that's business. Mm-hmm. But not everything that you sell or can sell or do for somebody is good, even though it looks good. Money looks good. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you don't want to do business with everybody that you can. That, and then just, that how much people matter to me, like the things that I was willing to sacrifice. Because at the end of the day, I put all those things up on the line, all my personal stuff, in order to protect these other people. And at the end of the day, if it was flipped around, they would, more than likely they wouldn't do that for me. But I'm the leader. This is what I'm supposed to do. It don't matter what somebody's willing to do for you or not. You're the leader. This is why people follow you. So showing that piece of it, I think I gained a lot of respect, and maybe that was the big shift when that happened, because I was kind of still early on. I was 2.5 years into my dad being gone and me running the company. That was probably the big shift for them to see, like,
it's not all monetary. I can lose it all. I'll try again, to do it. But the weight of, failing them. If we lost a business, they just go get another job. If I lose the business, I just put everything I have on the line. I'm living God knows where, I don't have anything. I don't have a vehicle. I don't have anything. My family don't have anything. That was, I think, the big leadership shift, like knowing that, all right, this is what I'm called to do, but these are the things that my calling requires me to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, those were tough moments.
What stopped you from saying, I guess, what motivated you? What drove you to take out the lines of credit, to put the house up, to make all those personal sacrifices to keep the company running versus cut and run? Because I'm sure in that moment you had a couple of choices: shut it down, walk away with whatever was left, versus I'm going to keep going no matter what. What drove you?
I mean, at that point it was, bank accounts were negative. So if I walk away, I didn't have anything. So it was more so of continue to fight until I had no fight left in me. There wasn't nothing to walk away with. And then the pressure of failing, I think, it's like being young and people, they don't know our numbers. They don't know what we do and stuff. But, that a lot of people my age, they didn't have the opportunity. They would look at as he was given this, sit back, collect a check, whatever. People run the company. I was so far from that. I don't think people understood that. So I think that the pressure of that, like, I knew that's what people said, I knew that's how they looked at it is, look how lucky they are, I think the weight of that, because how do you get given something and then ruin it in like a couple years? Something that I watched my dad like literally break himself to build, and I screwed it up in a couple of years. I don't think I would have been able to live with that. So I was forced to fight until I didn't have a place to go back and fight for.
Yeah. It seems like a common habit with the people I talk to, the business owners I know, is that the level of resolve that you have to keep going, no matter how hard that time gets. And then that knowing that there's nothing to go back to, like that you're not going to fail. And even if you lost everything, you're just going to build it again.
Yeah.
What do you think in that entrepreneur's mind, in your mind, what enables that level of like fearless, maybe not fearless, but that level of determination that says, no matter what, this is going to work. And even if it didn't, I'm just going to build it again.
Yeah. I think it's different. Like I may have a different perspective because I didn't, I've built the company to where it is. I don't know. Like we have other businesses too that we've started, obviously from nothing, trying to grow them. I didn't build this business from zero to there. So I feel like my perspective may be a little bit differently. But I did have the weight of failure and being passed down something and, and trusted that I could continue it on. I mean, at the end of the day, like it's for me, it was all I knew. Like I graduated high school. Like I worked, out in the field and done other things. And obviously, if I grew up and I had to work with my dad to go do stuff and, we had to make our own money. So I knew I could do something else, but I knew that this is what I had to do. So the fear in it is not, or the fearlessness is, you have to continue it on because at the end of the day, like you've risked everything to get here. So I'm going to go back to that building, no matter what the bank account looks like, or if I'm going there by myself until the bank puts a lock pad on it and I can't go in there anymore. But I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, it's you've risked everything to do it. So why stop until you don't have anything to go back to?
Yeah. Well, and at that point, you hadn't purchased the company yet. Mm-hmm. So you're putting everything on the line for a company that you don't even have ownership of. And that didn't come until early 25. Mm-hmm. So that's 23. You made some turnarounds 24, and then you purchased the company in 25. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about that, the actual purchase, because you've been the CEO of Southern Response up to that point.
Yeah, I mean, the title was a little bit different, but primarily I ran majority of the company. My brother was in there too, so we worked hand in hand to run the company. But primarily, I've done the CEO role for that amount of time.
So when did that shift start to come where you said, okay, now I'm going to purchase the company?
It was kind of like a forced thing. It wasn't, I knew I wanted to eventually, like, my dad built the company to hand down to me and my brother. And then I did all those things. I put all those things online because I felt like I had to continue to take care of my mom. So like all those things with the bank account, like, yeah, it wouldn't have necessarily affected me because I didn't actually own the company in those moments, but it would have, like, everything that the bank would have took to collect whatever money they could. It would have been all the things that my dad worked hard to give her. So I think that was the push of it. So we all kind of collaborated together and, sacrificed things in order to make it work because we didn't want to see all of the stuff that he achieved. For one, the company fell, the home he bought, the vehicles he bought, all the stuff that, that we had. We didn't want my mom to have to suffer any of that. So I think that started, kind of pushing like, hey, like, I'm the one making all these decisions while everything you own is on the line. It didn't kind of sit right. So we had talked about, just her breaking kind of some ownership and stuff off to give to us. And then some things happened. Unfortunately, our relationship isn't fully intact like it once was. So we just, in 25, we worked through some stuff. She made some decisions and we just, at best thought it would be better to, just do a full buyout. Me and Tripp were doing everything kind of anyways. So we did a full buyout agreement with her and, she lives down the beach now, does her own thing. And then we, take care of the company.
Gotcha. Was there any, because essentially we're still running it, all these years. Did anything shift in that time where now that ownership was now not just running the company, but now the ownership of the company was on you and your brother Tripp?
What do you mean?
Did it feel different? Did it operate differently? Was there any difference in that moment from what it had been?
I don't think so. Cause I had that. People had already looked at me because I was, I've been the face of the company since, I went from Lee Duke to Chase and Tripp Duke. So I'd been that face, majority of the new clients who were bringing all their clients we had, like they looked at us, as the owner and we, acted like that because you have to be, people want to deal with that and they knew Lee was our dad. So I think we just took ownership of that piece of it. Like there was a, shift, a slight shift whenever we took actual ownership of it. But I think we had that mentality before, that it was, we knew it was ours, at the end of the day that our dad built it. Like we were the ones there helping him build it, like do all the stuff. So I think it just, when he passed away, like that's when it clicked.
Yeah. So 25 to today, we're about a year and a half, beyond that now. And to grow that company to that $30 million mark, there's even more on the line, more people, more resources, more everything. So taking the lessons the last 5 years, knowing who to trust, who to partner with, who to work with, and also having to go through the hard times of having to put it all on the line to keep the business afloat. How has that shaped the leader you are today, not only with your people, but in the decisions that you're making in the business?
Leadership is a continuous thing. Like you continue to grow every single day. So every decision that I make, it's either going to work out in my favor or it's not. And then there's a lesson to learn from it. So I think as we continue to grow, like you just continue to develop as a leader each day, the bigger you get, the bigger your problems get. So I think a lot of the mistakes I made, a lot of things that I learned, I definitely take into account. Like the biggest piece is, not all money is good money. Like I'm very particular, like there's certain people that I know we could help out and we could do business with, but I'm not willing to do business with them. Who I do business with, same thing we were talking about earlier. It's like who you are around, who you associate with, who you grab lunch with. Like there's a lot of people that watch us that we don't even know, are looking at us, or we may not know them. They may see a video that I'm on or something and they resonate me with the company. That happens a lot. So anywhere I'm out in public, it matters about who I'm with. So I think that piece of it, it's the same in business. If I'm going to tie Southern Response to this company, like we need to be in line somewhere.
Yeah.
Those things are continuously on my mind. Every mistake that I made, plays into how we operate our business today. There's always lessons in it and you have to learn the lesson. I don't think, God's vengeful or he does things on purpose. There's hard seasons in your life and he's there and he walks through it with you. He's not going to do it for you. You're going to be stuck in that season until you learn whatever lesson it is that he's trying to teach you so you can grow. It's not about punishing you or anything like that. He wants to develop you and he can't develop you. You have to do it yourself with him. So it's about learning whatever lesson it is so you can continue to develop and be a better leader.
Yeah. Southern Response it's clear that your faith drives a lot of the decisions that are there. It's not just the Bible verse on the wall. Yep. It's the, I've seen videos you all post with devotions. I've seen the posts that are, talking about scripture. So how does faith and how does a relationship with God drive the decisions that you're making in your business and where you're going?
It's all about being a good steward of what you're given, being intentional with your decision, not being monetary, not looking at just how do we benefit from this? Like I said, our business is a people-driven business, so you have to love people. So keeping God at the center of it keeps us whole, keeps us ensuring that we're treating people and taking care of people, correctly. We're not perfect. We make tons of mistakes. I make mistakes every single day. I just know that, whether it's not like people don't come in our door and we preach to them or anything like that. I put the Bible verse up there if they want to read it and read it. Like we've had, people mention it and stuff like, man, that's cool. Like you don't see that. It does put us in the spotlight of a little bit more judgment. People love to judge or, say stuff. So it does kind of put you in a spotlight that's kind of scary. Because we're human. Like we're going to make mistakes. We're going to do things that, may not be right in those moments. But the true heart of what we're doing as we continue, I go in that building every single day because I genuinely love helping people. I love giving opportunities. I love trying to help people grow. So I think it's important to keep my heart, in a good posture. The faith piece definitely ties into it. And then back to trying to make sense of why my dad passed away, why I was, given all this stuff. I think there's a calling on our business and a, calling on my life to do something good with it. I think we're in a good position to love people and to show people, God's grace.
Yeah. Your business is not normally one that people are treated like that. In that staffing world, people are treated more as numbers on a spreadsheet and assets out in a field. Mm-hmm. You've got hundreds of people that are out there. How do you shift that mindset to be, not to fall into that staffing mentality like we've talked about, but to treat them like people, like children of God and like equals?
I think it's all about at the end of the day, I can say all the things I want to about how I feel. I'm not the one placing people on jobs anymore. Mm-hmm. So it's about how we project that to the team. It's about how I treat the team first, how the leaders and our company treat the team. All reverts back, the conversations we have with the team is when a situation arises, how we handle it matters, because ultimately they're in the same position. There's some form of leader to the employees that they're placing out on jobs. So we have to ensure that we do the right things by them. So then if they do something wrong by an employee, hey, I wouldn't have talked to you that way. I wouldn't have done this. I wouldn't have handled it this situation. So why, if you don't want to be treated like that, why are you treating these guys like that? Staffing definitely has a rough name on it. Initially, it is volume. The more people you have working, the more money you make. You want them there on as long as you can. So it is tough to differentiate that. I do want a lot of people working, but I want, for one, I want them to go home to their family safe. I want them to feel like if they have an issue or something, they can call and we're going to deal with it. And staffing, you have a lot of, so we do temp jobs, temporary to permanent jobs, and direct placements. A lot of times, you're working with these companies and these guys, you're hiring for a direct position, and it happens to us all the time. We're hiring for a higher level position, and when they hear we're a staffing company or something, they're like, no, I'm good. So you have to show them the difference. I think we've done good with that piece of it. Just, we've shot some videos and stuff, just taking care of our guys. We have some stuff, with a client that's kind of long term. So when they hit their 90 days, we'll take them, do something for them. When they hit a year mark, out there, we're doing stuff for them, trying to show them that we care. It's honestly not hard because nobody else is doing it. And if you really say what you mean, and you care about people, it's not hard to do. Yeah. I just think people they may say they care about people or this is why they do it, but then they don't have the actions behind it. I think it's being intentional with the actions. Yeah.
At the end of the day, we're all in the people business. We all do different things with that. The way that we do business is different, but at the end of the day, without people, none of it works.
Yep.
So where's Southern Response going? What's your goals for the next, not just monetary, financial? I know we talked about that a little bit, but where do you see Southern Response going? Where are you all taking it in the next 1 to 3 years?
Definitely the vision is to continuously grow. Obviously the financial pieces of it are huge. It's more about the number. So if we're, at 30 million now, and my goal is to take it to 100 million, I'm not looking at just 100 million. I'm looking at how many more lives if we're, the amount of people we employ now at 30 million, the amount of people we're going to employ and provide for at 100 million, the impact that has on the impact we have now, doubling, quadrupling that to get to those numbers that's the vision, is to get there, to impact more lives, to create better lives for our internal people. Like I said, financially for our staff, I want them making good money. they work hard. Like this industry, like you work hard, and it's unfair what some of these people make and with other companies, and they're expected to do this level of work. It's stressful. Yeah. And so I want to, if it stunts our growth a little bit because we have more overhead, I'm fine with delaying that process for the growth of our people, retention of our people. I want them there, like I said, fully committed, 100%, there for the long run. There's a lot of turnover. I think they say in staff, and it's about 18-month burnout rate. So that's a big piece. I'm trying to figure out, like, how do I get past that burnout rate, which I've seen it. It's true. And it's not all financially for people too. Like some people, no matter what you pay them, they can't handle the stress. They don't love it. You have to love this industry to make it. And so we try to help them learn to love it as much as we do.
Yeah. Everything I hear you talking about talks about taking people to that next level, caring about people. And as long as you keep your heart there, those decisions become easier to make. So what would you tell somebody that's, now I know that you're in the room with people with $100 million, billion-dollar businesses. What's some of the advice that you would give to somebody that's up and coming, that's working to get to the level that you're at, where they're facing tough times in their business? They don't know how to keep it going. What's some of the guidance and advice you'd give out?
Yeah. The biggest thing is they're all looking for, when does it get easier? When does it shift? When does it get changed? The biggest piece I hear about is, people want freedom. Like that's why they're encouraged to open their own business. I've met a lot of people that have businesses way bigger than me. Like, yeah, they may have a little bit of freedom, but true freedom, like these guys are talking about, they want, I don't think is realistic at all, like ever. You're able to do more once you reach a point, where your company, like the freedom that you experience at this level where, I can go actually take a vacation now. I can go do something with my family. And the company still runs. Like there's pieces of it, but I feel like so many young entrepreneur, young people that want to get in a business, they're like, man, I just want freedom. I want to be able to do what I want. Like, all these things. Like you're never going to get there if that's what you want from the beginning, because you have to build a team willing to do that. You're not going to be able to pay people enough money to run your business for you. So you're going to have to do it yourself. And then once you start getting to those, once you start getting closer to that and you have, people on your team, they still want your buy-in. They still want you in there with them. They still want you working beside them. I don't think, obviously there's scenarios, but I don't think it's very honest to give somebody advice to just that you can pay people to run your company.
Yeah. You want freedom, sell it and move on, right?
Yeah.
That's it. If you had to summarize the last 5 years of everything you've gone through, how would you summarize all that and kind of put a bow on that?
Hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely tough, but I think you learn to love the hard things about it. It's not easy. Running a business is stressful. There's good moments in it. Like I love the feeling, the excitement that it brings me, the joy. There's a lot of different emotions in it, but ultimately it's tough. And if you feel like you want to get into that journey, you want to be, an entrepreneur, there's a difference. People are, I don't know if it's, I've had several conversations if people are born leaders or can they become leaders? Are they born an entrepreneur or are they not? Like, does everybody have it in it? I think it's, it's possible to become anything that you really try and work hard for. Some people don't believe that. But there's entrepreneurs or intrapreneurs. You have to figure out which one you are. There's people who are willing to take all those risks and be all those things and put their house, put their, sell their vehicles, all the monetary things that you've worked hard to get, you have to be willing to risk it all for other people. It's all about people. Or you can be an entrepreneur and be one of those, be somebody who just makes really good money, but you're never going to really risk everything you have for other people, and just always work for somebody and help run their company. Like both of them are good. You just have to figure out like what you are, what hard you're willing to deal with.
Yeah, that was incredible. I appreciate that's great guidance.
Yeah.
It's hearing your journey, hearing your story. Hopefully it has a positive impact on somebody else that's walking through that. My motivation for even starting this series of conversations was many times entrepreneurs, business owners, they seem like they have it figured out because there is that hard shell of resolve, but it's those 3 a.m. moments that really shape the decisions that we're making. And so my goal in this was to offer that hand to somebody else that feels like, I don't know what I'm doing. Because I think we all go through that point where we're trying to figure it out. And the more people know that that's normal, hopefully if these stories can help one person, it makes it all worth it. So thank you for taking the time to share your story and your journey.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me.
I can't wait to see where Southern Response goes and you all go in the next year, 2 years.
Hopefully we keep going like we're going.
Well, I think your focus is on the right place. You've got the right vision, and I think the road is wide open for you. So, awesome.
I appreciate it.